In this turmoil of people trying to push a diet agenda for whatever reason, there exudes a number of controversies, but usually most people who are pushing a certain diet is mainly due to reasons that coincide with making money or some type of financial interest. Well, wait a damn second. I'm trying to push a diet agenda, and if you're one of those individuals who's pointing a finger at me, then I would say, you're right. I am pushing a vegan diet and lifestyle, not necessarily for money because I'm not making shit out of being a supporter of the vegan revolution, but mainly because 1, it has major impacts to our health, 2, it's one of the highest contributing factors to destroying our planet, and 3, the insanely high amounts of unnecessary pain and death that goes into the animal agriculture business is enough to make anyone want to spiral into an unforgivable, never-ending depression that is only applicable to sane people because, morals are subjective. I'm not going to debate whether morals are subjective or not because morals are subjective, but being the position that Americans are in, Europeans, some South Americans in certain nations and other nations are in, you'd probably assume that most people share the same or very similar types of morals worldwide. It's not good to steal. It's not good to rape. It's not good to exploit other sentient beings. It's not good to needlessly murder. This is why veganism is the best approach we have right now to correct the atrocities we have been committing since the beginning of modern agriculture. With the availability of information we have today, a mass amount of controversy continues to ensue as professors and even just regular people trying to make money persist on pushing bullshit science to support their interest. And let me make this clear. I'm not saying professors like Chris Kresser or any other person cannot push bullshit science. I'm a huge believer in freedom of speech. I'm just saying we have to call them out and others alike on their bullshit when they state such crap. Funny enough, a plant-based doctor actually had an opportunity to do such a thing about a year ago, that being Dr. Joe Kahn. For those who know anything about nutrition or are interested in the topic of nutrition, this may have been the debate to listen to, or at least the opportunity to listen to hopefully clear the air once and for all on what humans are supposed to eat until you listen to the debate. There's a few things that need to be understood here, as this debate was a very big deal, and I might come off as harsh, but hear me out. Dr. Kahn did a great job in providing the science and explaining the science, so A+ there, as I was actually very happy and proud of Dr. Kahn on how concise he was with delivering his interpretation of the science, and just his delivery of everything I thought was very professional. I think he did a great job, even though he cursed a few times.
And you fucking dead. And you fucking dead. And you fucking dead.
I personally really didn't give a damn, but I think he did a great job overall in regards to delivering what the science says, through a microphone. But unfortunately, I have to give Dr. Kahn an F in calling Chris out on his bullshit though. Chris has a problem with epidemiological science or observation-based studies, as he states here.
I think there's huge problems with epidemiology. So epidemiology, observational studies, are studies that look at a certain group of people and then try to draw inferences from their behavior about associations with disease.
Chris has a problem with epidemiological based studies because they're not fully accurate, and I actually agree with this a lot actually. Population based studies are flawed because they're usually based on questionnaires that people have to fill out based on like eating habits from years ago and how they typically eat. So you can imagine how inaccurate population based studies can potentially be when relying on people to fill out questionnaires based on memories and how accurate the information is and how honest the people are actually being when they fill out these questionnaires. So as soon as Chris references any type of population-based or epidemiological study, you have to stop and remind him that epidemiological studies are inaccurate because of what he stated earlier. Unless, of course, all confounding factors can be accurately controlled for. In other words, Chris cannot use population-based studies just when it suits his bias. Yet here he is doing so.
For example, you have a meta-analysis of observational studies including about 350,000 participants recently that found no relationship between saturated fat intake and cardiovascular disease.
Either you accept epidemiological studies or you don't, especially when it comes to population-based studies that are funded by the dairy industry and that are designed to show that saturated fat intake shows no correlation to cardiovascular disease, as he did in the debate and as shown in his Diet Heart Myth ebook. I've already debunked this study like 3 times and I'm not gonna go over it again because honestly I'm getting really fucking tired of going over it. And don't worry, link will be above so you can see where I actually do debunk it. So if you haven't checked out my previous video or any of my other previous videos where I debunked that study, links will be up above. Make sure to check them out if you're interested in the video or if you're interested in that topic or you want any more information in regards to that. Either way, the point is that Chris Kresser does not trust population-based studies, so he shouldn't reference them because they're so inaccurate, right? Chris Kresser actually falls back on population-based studies to push his agenda. This is where Dr. Kahn jacked up in the debate. It was at this moment where he should have called out Chris Kresser on his bullshit, as he is using a population-based study that is funded by industry, which was formulated with an agenda to make saturated fat look non-causal or non-contributory towards cardiovascular disease. Instead, Dr. Kahn does this.
He doesn't like epidemiology, but he totally uses epidemiology to support his case. You can't have it both ways. I love basic biochemistry. I love epidemiology. I love randomized studies. I love centenarian studies. My foundation is broad, and it's what's called the scientific method that's used by scientists in Los Angeles, and that's who taught me it.
When you slow the debate down and call someone out on a topic as large as this, such as Chris Kresser referencing some type of this bullshit study that was funded by the National Dairy Council, you take control of the debate. You see, because it was the beginning of the debate, or at least towards the beginning part of the debate, and it pretty much discredits him because how did he not notice this from the get-go? How do you, Chris Kresser, Professor, I mean, I noticed it, but you know, to the typical person won't recognize this maybe if you're not into this type of topic. How do you not realize that the study that you're showing us, 1, was funded by the national dairy industry, and 2, was set up to make saturated fat have no correlation with cardiovascular disease? How could you miss that, Chris? Chris Kresser, the Professor Chris Kresser, need to be called out right then and there that he is wrong and the study that he is providing is bullshit, so that Chris Kresser, or at least the people can know that Chris Kresser is indeed a professor and he is sourcing industry-funded studies that are flawed by design.
Here, so they've done controlled feeding studies where they've fed people 2 to 4 eggs a day, and those show that in 75% of cases that has 0 impact on blood cholesterol levels.
So apparently there was a controlled study where researchers fed people 2 to 4 eggs and they did not see a change in cholesterol levels. Well, I'm not sure what study he's talking about since he didn't give the topic or anything, but I'm pretty sure it was this one. But anyways, this is a study that he referenced in his ebook as well too, which I debunked in a previous video as well too. And yeah, essentially the issue is, yeah, you're not going to see a change in someone's cholesterol levels if they're already sick with high cholesterol levels. Yeah, so if you swap out someone's, in their diet, if they're consuming this amount of cholesterol, and you swap out that cholesterol-rich food, and you put in eggs in place of that, yeah, you're probably not going to see a change in cholesterol levels. Now, you go ahead and give someone who eats no cholesterol and very low amounts of saturated fat or trans fat, in other words, like a whole foods plant-based diet, a low-fat whole foods plant-based diet, and you give them some eggs, I promise you, I guarantee it, I'd put money on it, you're going to see their cholesterol levels skyrocket. You give eggs to a regular American or somebody following the standard American diet, and you take out some of the junkier foods that they're eating, whatever, and you put eggs in place of that, yeah, you're not going to see a change in cholesterol levels, which actually should tell you how bad eggs are for you. You take out shit food and you put eggs in place of that, and their cholesterol levels stay the same. That's not good, bro. But let's wrap up on what Chris Kresser has to say on population-based observational studies or epidemiological studies.
I'm not saying we shouldn't use observational research. I'm saying we should be circumspect about how we use it, and we should be aware of the limitations and the flaws, and keep those in mind when we're designing observational studies and when we're interpreting their results.
So let's go ahead and repeat exactly what Chris Kresser said. He said we should be aware of the limitations and the flaws and keep those in mind when we're designing observational studies and we're interpreting their results. If only the Brofessor Chris Kresser could take his own advice. Do you think using a dairy industry funded study that was designed to succeed in favor of saturated fat intake due to cholesterol levels not being accounted for at baseline can be easily misinterpreted, Chris? I mean, do you think a study that was funded by the American Egg Board that did not actually control for things like dietary fiber and saturated fat intake or total energy intake, do you think that could be misinterpreted easily? Do you think that was formulated with some type of agenda? I mean, what a freaking great Brofessor. I am so glad that Chris Kresser made the team because he is undoubtedly a true Brofessor. What needs to be understood is that a little weasel like Chris Kresser is going to scratch and claw his way to victory, or at least keep you very confused, even if it means the lives of billions of other sentient beings have to pay the price for it, or even if your health has to pay the price for it. I also don't want to fully blame Dr. Kahn. The guy is not a debater. He's a heart doctor saving lives and fighting the good fight against bullshit. Either way, you know, Chris Kresser, I believe, just did a little bit of a better job keeping him confused and throwing a whole bunch of bullshit studies and like changing topics back and forth and just keeping him flustered, which actually played to his advantage. So kudos to Chris Kresser for being a professor and kind of being a piece of shit at the same time. Either way, I have nothing but respect for Dr. Kahn. He just jacked up the debate. Because if you were indifferent in regards to this topic, you know, in regards to following a whole foods plant-based diet, a low-fat whole foods plant-based diet, or a low-fat high-carb diet, or vice versa, or a low-carb diet, or a keto diet, or a paleo diet, you'd probably just walk away with your hands up and just say, fuck it, I'm just gonna keep doing what I'm doing as I was always doing. I'm just gonna keep eating meat and maybe eat some more vegetables and continue to eat eggs and maybe eat some more fruit, because neither side actually really debunked the other side. They both just threw science into the pot, and the general population typically cannot differentiate between the two. And that's the problem right there. People are confused because you have guys like Dr. Kahn saying one thing, and then you have professors like Chris Kresser or shitbags, whatever, saying another thing, and they both have science to back up what they're saying. The difference is that one person, that being in this case Chris Kresser, has bad science and the other person has legit science. So what you have to do is go one by one through each scientific article and find what is wrong and what is right with the article. That's how you're supposed to do the debate, and not just throw a bunch of science at each other, because then the people don't know how to differentiate. You know, they don't know how to differentiate between the two. They don't know. So you just got a bunch of science, and what are people gonna do? They're probably just gonna be confused and keep doing what they're doing, right? So you have to debunk the science and what they're doing. You have to actually see what is wrong with the science that is being presented. If you both have conflicting science, someone's wrong. I promise you, someone's wrong. Either someone's conflating something or it's not correlating. There's some type of issue going on there. In this case, we know Chris Kresser is, one, misrepresenting science, and two, showing industry-funded science that doesn't prove shit. There was also at one point in the debate where they were talking about saturated fat, and Chris Kresser actually started jumping into a topic about diabetes, actually, or he was using randomized controlled trial studies showing that low-carb diets improve biomarkers in diabetics and stuff like that, when they were actually talking about saturated fat and how it causes heart disease or atherosclerosis in that regard. And he was using randomized controlled trials in regards to diabetes. Again, that's a different topic. Diabetes, heart disease, two different, very, very different topics. And then if you look at the randomized controlled trial studies, Did they control for calories? Because I almost guarantee you they didn't. I didn't even look at them. Because whenever I see a diabetes study and they use low carb, it always hides behind a caloric deficit. You get put in a caloric deficit. I don't care if you're chugging palm oil, okay? You get put in a caloric deficit, I promise you, and you start to lose weight, I promise you, your diabetes will not be as bad as it was. You're losing body fat. You're losing body fat. Your diabetes, your insulin sensitivity will go up. It's not gonna improve as much as if you were to go on a whole foods plant-based diet. That's proven. But if you control for calories, I promise you, in other words, you keep people at maintenance and you have them eat as much saturated fat as they want, eat animal products and all that crap, and you keep them at maintenance, I promise you their diabetes ain't going nowhere. It's gonna get worse. That I guarantee. Guarantee. There's only one diet that's ever been proven to improve diabetes without weight loss, without being in a caloric deficit, and that was a whole foods plant-based diet, high fiber, high carb diet. Again, and he's using this, Chris Kresser is using randomized controlled trial studies that improved diabetes biomarkers in regards to diabetes with cardiovascular disease and saturated fat intake. Neither one, these are two different topics, and he did this over and over again just to confuse Dr. Kahn. Like I said, he did a great job in being a piece of shit in this debate, but whatever. What can you do? You know, he got Dr. Kahn off fluster. I was like screaming. If you would have seen me, I was like, dude, what are you doing? And I was like, you just got to slow down with professors like this, man, because you got to understand they got an agenda to push. But whatever, maybe next time. I know what you're thinking. Well, the reason why I'm speaking like this is because I'm a vegan. Well, look, listen, people. First of all, I haven't been vegan for that long. And second, if I needed to eat animal flesh, if it was a necessity for me, if I was an obligatory omnivore or carnivore, I would eat animals. I would eat it. I would eat it to survive. And you can't knock me for that because I would need it. I need it to survive, right? I'm an omnivore. I'm not gonna knock a carnivore, an obligatory carnivore, a lion, right? That needs to fucking eat, a cat even, that needs to eat meat, that needs to eat other animals. I'm not, technically in today's day and age they don't, because they can just eat other foods, but with human technology, whatever. But the point is that I'm not gonna knock that animal for hunting down a zebra and eating it. No, because it needs to do that. Unfortunately, don't fucking look at me. Look at the creator for that. And if I was one of those, if I was an actual carnivore and I needed to do that, then I would. But that's not the case. The science doesn't show that. Everything in the science is in favor of a whole foods plant-based diet that is typically low in fat. And if you have any science to refute that, then please link it down below. But please save your industry-funded bullshit that is formulated with an agenda to make saturated fat and dietary cholesterol look non-causal, because believe me, I've read a lot and I'm not really interested in that bullshit anymore. So that's about it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. I felt like I needed to expand a little bit more on the Professor Chris Kresser. This isn't a part 2 to the Professor videos. This is just a video that I needed to make in regards to this, because I heard this debate months ago when it first came out, and a whole bunch of people made a whole bunch of content on it, and I felt like, let me just put it, I felt like I didn't feel like responding to it, and I just felt like this would be a better time, I guess. Call me later, whatever. But the point is, when I see this type of bullshit, I just feel it's necessary to, explain or give a little bit more detail on why this is bullshit. And Chris Kresser and his bullshit is, it's right up there. So that's about it, guys. I hope you appreciated the video. Please let me know what you think in the comment sections down below about this professor and how he, uses his little manipulative tactics to, how he used his tactics to throw off Dr. Kahn. What you think. Have you ever been in a situation like that? Please let me know, as I love to engage with all of you. I appreciate every single one of you. Please feel free to like, subscribe, and hit the ding dong button if you haven't already. You guys know who I am. I'm the Natural Host. I want to thank you for watching, and please stay tuned for the next one.